ascending to the top of the tech world one episode at a time with Digital Ascent. This is episode 0008 of the Digital Ascent podcast. In this episode, we talk about why TikTok is still bad, Elden Ring earning the Game of the Year award, a breakthrough in fusion power, Twitter's new restrictions for advertisement, and our core topic, ChatGPT. We hope you enjoy.
All right, so we got some current events here for us today for the crew, Brent, myself, Sean, and Jordy to talk about. First current event we're going to talk about is TikTok. You know, I like to talk about TikTok and why you shouldn't use it. The U.S. government has two prongs that they are looking at right now. Neither of these things are official yet, but you know, at least one of these has made it through the Senate. I think the other one's kicking around the House. I could be incorrect. First one is U.S. government is looking to ban TikTok from all government-issued cell phones. They've already done this for the military. Multiple states have already done this. The Senate has already passed this bipartisanly. I don't know out there if you follow politics, but that is basically unheard of in this day and age. Nobody agrees on anything, but the U.S. government does seem to agree on one thing. TikTok does not belong on government issued cell phones. So hopefully we'll see that put into play. At least I think that way. And then the second one prong on this one is that there was another bipartisan bill introduced by Mr. Marco Rubio that would ban, I think the way it's phrased, that it would ban companies from paying social media companies owned by Russia and China. And the way I think that would play out is that, you know, I guess they basically wouldn't be able to churn ad revenue through the app stores and stuff like that, and effectively make them not profitable to use. So that's the first two things I wanted to talk about. Anyone got any opinions or thoughts on any of that?
If it makes you feel any better, my wife basically uninstalled it, and she's been without it for like a week.
Yeah, boy.
Maybe you can
finally
give my wife some tips.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you want some tips, though.
You know, the funny thing is, what's crazy is, so I was back in Nashville a couple weeks ago with Sean at a Christmas party and his lovely wife, and also my wife and other people and their wives. That is not the point of, I just wanted to set the scene. But what's funny, though, is at our table, there at one point was a conversation about TikTok and social media and stuff like that. And it's insane because I feel like Liv was kind of, you know, she was kind of stern in the moment. Like, you know, it is what it is. And so I'm surprised to just see the 180.
I've been hammering
crazy.
at this for a while. That's why that
yeah.
is. I'm like, look, I can't have my financial information compromised because you decide you want to look at funny dog memes. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't do it. So
it's like I'm so surprised at how many people I feel like know this information and just don't care. And I think that's probably the general consensus of like, you know, privacy today. But it is just a little wonky. You know, TikTok has more access. It can see more than some of these other social media apps. And it doesn't take a whole lot to figure out what they can see. So, you know, wise up, sheeple. Wise up.
So the second point you mentioned, Matt, you were talking about how they're going to ban financial transactions. Is that also going to pull the monetization from content creators? Because I think that's what it's going to take.
Ooh,
to essentially, if the content creators stop making content on the platform, there won't be anything to watch, and the platform will just die off. That's what needs to happen.
It'll hamstring it.
I think that the actual theory is that it goes something like America wants it off the App Store, but you can't just tell Google to remove it from the App Store because America's not a dictatorship, and it has no ownership stake in the company, unlike, you know, the government and these social media companies that are in question. Though I would say we're primarily talking about TikTok. I don't know any Russian social media companies. So maybe Telegram. Maybe Telegram's Russian based. I guess I don't really know that.
So that makes sense though.
I guess the one final thought on this one before we move to the next topic, I would say, is that I personally feel like this would better be resolved with data privacy laws. And Maybe if it was just illegal for the data to leave the platform and, to other countries or, other things that would maybe solve it also. Maybe TikTok wouldn't care. I don't know. But that would be my personal preferences.
Yeah, but how do you regulate it though? How do you make sure? How do you,
I would say, ask Germany. They seem to be succeeding in it. So it's not like it can't be done. Okay. Next thing, game of the year. Elden Ring won game of the year. Yep. Elden Ring.
Deserved.
I still haven't played it, so it's on my list.
I think in one of our earlier episodes, I simped for Elden Ring, and I think somebody talked trash about it, and I don't really care. Elden Ring is a good game. I am currently playing it right now. I'm still working my first playthrough. I just picked it back up. It is still good, man. I've hype worn off for a long time, but it's still a good freaking game.
Dude, absolutely. And I just finished God of War Ragnarok, and that was kind of my mainline pick for game of the year this year. And although I kind of walked into the Game Awards with an open mind, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know that's not the definitive award. There's going to be a million more award, things that go on before the end of the year. But I was really happy that Elden Ring won. Like, that's a solid game through and through. If you're a hardcore gamer and you've been kind of burnt out by the things that you've been playing, this is the first kind of Soulsborne game that I've picked up. I think Sekiro won game of the year a couple years ago. I bought it. I said, let me get my feet wet. And I put it down after 45 minutes. It was just too difficult. Couldn't do it.
Too much, yeah.
Elden Ring was not like that. You know what I mean? It's
Very
fantastic. Give it a try. It's very appropriate. And you won't be disappointed. It's a fantastic game. So good. So good.
And there's like no bugs. It's amazing. It released and there were like no freaking bugs. None that I encountered anyways.
Go figure.
There's no way.
It's not possible.
I will say, just to be unbiased,
it
I had issues with co-op. All right. It was such a pain in the ass to get to join somebody's game or get somebody to come to me. It was terrible. I imagine that those things have been ironed out because, like you, Matt, I mean, I picked the game up as it released. And so I'm sure that a lot of those problems are not there anymore. But
that's
it was
a very small component. Like the full-fledged game, I don't believe
that's fair.
Really serious bugs. Like,
and I don't think that there were either. I was never pinned on them. Yeah, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. Just trying to be unbiased. You know what I mean?
I get it.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to be unbiased. Matt, go ahead. What else you got for us, man?
All right. Next one I want to touch on is the fusion power breakthrough. Fusion power is like the future tech energy that everyone is looking for. As I personally remember it throughout the year, there have been several like minor successes. It stays, when they try to hit the reaction, it stays on longer. And, it comes a little bit closer to making net positive energy. And, America scientists had I guess what is considered a major breakthrough where for the first time ever, we pumped, energy into a fusion reactor and it came out positive on the energy side. And we actually generated net positive energy. I think they said it was like by somewhere, around 130 to 150% of the output of the original input.
Yeah. More power than it took to power the test was generated on the back end.
Yes.
That's
and
awesome,
so, and I mean, it only happened for a split second, but this is one of those like first in the history of humankind moments right here. They don't happen very often, but this was one of them. At least this is the first time it was published. Right? I mean, maybe it happened in some other part of the world and they're just keeping it.
No, I think this was the first one, Matt. But no, I think you're right. I think this is the first one.
Well, it's the first one that is publicly released. I mean, it's pretty exciting. They are hiring the lab that did it. Unfortunately, I didn't, pull up the lab name. So, but if you happen to be a smart scientist, go apply and work on the fusion stuff and get us some future tech energy so we can mine Bitcoin better or something.
Love the plug, bro.
Hey, man, it's something I support, car. Right? Yeah, man. If fusion works out, fusion's supposed to burn like clean, and it doesn't, like make your organs melt when it blows up. So,
hey, seriously, I'm not even going
little benefit on nuclear.
my mind is where Brent's mind is at. I was talking to my wife
You want
about
the
this a couple
fusion
nights
car?
ago, and I'm like, "Oh, what? How long now until commercially?" And she's like, "Yeah, probably a couple years." And I said, "Okay, damn, you're right. But like,
I doubt it.
how long till I could get like a flying car or something? Like if
Are you
we
kidding
just
me? A
got it,
couple
you know
years?
what I mean? Like
You're
let
A
nuts.
me.
DeLorean with a hover conversion.
You
I want
see
the
what I'm
flux
saying, Brent?
capacitor. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I'm
You
Yeah.
trying
said
to
it
go
was
back to the
2000,
80s. You know what I'm saying? You know?
2015. What's that happened? I don't know.
Yeah, we're a little bit past, but you know,
a little far,
No,
but
no
that's all
close enough.
right.
hoverboards. So, all right. So that's really exciting, man. Hopefully it turns out to be big. Hopefully we start getting some fusion reactors out there. Maybe it'll solve some of the energy problems that that we've been seeing and that the entire world feels some amount of concern over. So,
Yeah, that'd be
all
nice.
right. Next one, and I'm just going to say this last one is who knows if it's going to be accurate when we release. Right now, it is the 18th of December, and things are moving so fast. Who can keep up? I want to talk about Twitter. If you've been following Twitter, it is, speed running changes over there. And the most recent of these changes is that they're going to quote unquote no longer allow the free promotion of other sites on the other social media platforms. My understanding is that if you say something like follow me on at Dr. Packet at mastodon.social or something like that, then I don't know, my tweet's gonna get taken down. Maybe I'll get suspended eventually. I don't know. I deactivated my Twitter account. Honestly, I decided I had seen enough here and I'm out.
It's funny because like Matt, you mentioned it's 18th of December right now. We've been prepping for this episode this week, and like things have changed already. We had
Yeah.
I think Twitter, this isn't even the biggest thing they've done, or it's not the biggest thing. You know what I mean? Elon went and they suspended a handful of, I guess, let me correct myself. It wasn't
They
Elon,
suspended a
Twitter
handful.
itself.
They suspended a handful of journalists and then they unsuspended them.
Yeah, and
in the space of like 24
weird.
hours. What are they doing?
We won't get into like the weird nitty gritty, but it's just like, it feels like the journalists were kind of handpicked, so to speak. And then now we get this new change where, just like Matt said, they're kind of blocking promotion of other social sites. This is something that has been put out by Twitter. So as of now, it is official. And they're specifically targeting sites, the alternate sites. So Mastodon was one of
Instagram,
them, Truth Social, Instagram, Facebook, and the big one was like the LinkedIn, the bio, like I don't know.
Oh yeah, if it's like one link. You can't include them in your freaking bio either.
Yeah, and I can't remember what their.
It was
but there's one
Linktree.
Yes, Linktree, those kinds of services. So they've automatically removed those, and if they are still up, you can't have those in your. They're essentially just trying to cordon off, like Twitter is Twitter, and so
I don't know what they're doing here. Maybe it's a master genius plan. I'm lost. I've lost the plot at this point.
And and I ultimately think what the idea here is that they're going to make it quote illegal for regular users and put that behind Twitter Blue subscription. If you have Twitter Blue, now you can do whatever you want. You can post, you can redirect wherever you want, you can do this. But I think the idea here is to kind of make up for some of the ad revenue that they've lost in the very recent past. And so
the 50% that they lost?
that is I'm kind of pointing in the sky here, but just like Matt said, things have been crazy. There have been a lot of changes. Some of those changes are reverted every day. Soon after. And so we'll just kind of have to put our hands up and wait and see, what goes on over the next 30 days, 60 days.
More pay to win. Now. Love it.
Yeah.
I hate this topic because it's going to be out. By the time we release this, it's going to be outdated. There's going to be 12 more things that have occurred that are equally as unique.
It makes me so sad because I really love Twitter. I use it more than any other social media, and it is genuinely helpful. I can get accurate news sources and I'm getting them much quicker than I can. Helpful. That's true. Yeah. And so now I'm like, dude, if they're just going to lock everything behind a paywall, I'm not paying for Twitter. I'm definitely not paying $8 a month for Twitter. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean?
It's like they've decided that the consumer is no longer the product. Now the product is the product. And the consumer as a product is now a byproduct of the product being the product. And that's hey man, I'm serious. That's
Say
a really
one more time.
Product. That's a really hot take for a social media organization. You know, social media organizations overarchingly are data farms, and they get their money by data farming out to advertisers. And Twitter has abandoned this idea that it needs advertisers to survive, and instead it's going to get people to pay money. I personally look at that and go, but bro, there's so many free options. And you know, I mean, I understand that I'm the product, and I guess I assume other people understand they're the product also for these other services like Facebook or Mastodon or whatever. But you know, I don't like it, and I choose not to like provide any value, right, as part of it. And most people
Absolutely.
don't. And I assume that most people will see Twitter blue for $8 and be like, well, why am I spending money here when I can just go to Instagram? Like Twitter's like, I don't really see it personally. Once again, maybe there's some 4D chess going on, you know, whatever. I can't predict the future. Maybe these are all really genius moves. I don't know.
Time will tell, I suppose.
Time will
Time
freaking tell.
will tell.
Whew, man.
Nothing lasts
That
forever.
one's wild. No, it's not. You know, and speaking of change, I feel like that is just the 10 out of 10 segue into our core topic. And tonight, our core topic is going to be ChatGPT. And if you don't know, if you don't know what ChatGPT is, hopefully you're going to listen to the rest of this episode and learn. And then I personally recommend that you go play with it yourself and see what you can make it do and see how you can apply it to your life, because I think that it could add value or, you know, do something for you. Anyways, without further ado, let's talk ChatGPT. So I'm going to do a little bit of defining here before we explain exactly what ChatGPT is. And, you know, I'll try to run through it and not make it too boring. So step one, what is AI? AI is artificial intelligence. You know, it's any time that you think of a computer making a decision that you didn't explicitly tell it to make, right? Where you know, it's going to go think a little deeper. And that's AI in a nutshell. You know, you should think like Terminator, Cyberdyne, Skynet, stuff like that. That's good AI thinking material. You know, iRobot with Will Smith, that's probably a really dated reference at this point. Not very useful.
Still a fantastic
great
movie.
reference. That's a great movie.
That's great.
I did not know that him.
Yeah. Hey, look, I for the record, I'm just going to go here and just plug Asimov. If you're reading and you're into sci-fi and you want to learn more about artificial intelligence, go read yourself some Asimov. Start with the Cave of Steel series, and you know, sink it and enjoy yourself some like short to medium length stories. You know,
I think that's what makes it so crazy, though, because like everything you guys are referencing are stories, are fiction that people have written in the past that is now
decades
very quickly
ago
becoming nonfiction. Like this is actually happening to some extent, so it's a big deal.
It is. So I'm going to take it a little further now. We're going to do just a little bit more learning. I want to talk about machine learning and deep learning. And the concepts of machine learning and deep learning are essentially pattern recognition. What you do is you take one of these one of these decision-making things, and then you feed it lots of examples, and you teach it which ones are the right ones. So an example of this is that I'm sure that you guys have all, or gals, you know, whoever's listening, I'm sure that you have all logged into Google at some point, done a Google search, or had to do some sort of CAPTCHA, and it gives you a grid of 9 pictures, and it tells you to find the bike. And I'm sure you've noticed over the years that the pictures have been steadily like grainier and less defined, and you know, maybe it's a little harder to get you to find the crosswalk. They only include a portion of the crosswalk, or to find the bus. And you know, I personally believe that is training a computer which picture, like they're feeding all those pictures to a computer and asking it to, guess which one's the way, asking it to find the bike, and you're selecting the right answers for it. And so you're helping train those AI. So machine learning is continuing, sending problem. Mm-hmm. It's continually feeding data and then having it learn which one, like, is that a cat or a dog, and you feed it a picture of a snake, and when, eventually hopefully we'll learn that the snake is not a cat, and it'll start, when you say give me a cat, it'll show you a picture of a cat. Okay, so these two concepts are what I personally view as the core of ChatGPT, which stands for Chat Generative Pre-training Transformer, which is a language model that is supposed to be kind of like a chat bot. And some people out there may be familiar with the Turing test. That's the concept or the test developed by Alan Turing, where Seymour Learning, sorry, developed by Alan Turing to see, like, can people decide, can you discern if there's an AI or a person on the other end of the computer. And this chat bot is very, very, very good. It is.
Oh,
it is
boy,
wild.
It is crazy.
Wild. I lack the words. Yeah, I lack the words to describe how good it is. I would say that it's amazing. I've used it for quite a bit of things. I do want to get into the what have we used it for, but I want to send that back, for later in the episode. But this thing's wild. You basically can go to it and you can say to it, what is the fastest marine mammal? And it should spit back the right answer. Whether it's dolphin or orca, perhaps it has given me different answers for that over the past few days. It is not perfect.
Matt, I actually have an answer for you. I just typed in what is the fastest marine animal, and it said the fastest marine animal. No, it's the sailfish, which is able to swim at speeds of up to 109 kilometers per hour. There's also a bigger description, but I'm not going to read that. I just wanted to let you know that's how. Hey, listener. Hey, we're not playing no games here, all right? This is a cool tool, all right? It's awesome. Matt, please continue.
Okay, so there's one more thing I want to talk about. One more product. It's also developed by the same company. Company is OpenAI. Their website is openai.com. I encourage you to go just take a peek at it. Why? Because I think it's cool. And that's their DALL-E 2 product. And that is their image generation, where the same thing as I was talking about, where you would maybe go to it and say, give me an image of a cat. With ChatGPT, I would say, describe to me what the common household cat is like. Or perhaps describe to me cats that are not a common household cat. And maybe it'll describe to me a lion or something like that. Anyways, I can go to DALL-E 2 and I can say, show me a picture of a house cat, but draw it in the style of Van Gogh. And it'll draw me a net new picture. Now, I want to be really clear about this. It is not going into a database, finding a picture of a cat in the style of Van Gogh that has previously been done by somebody else, whether digital or not. It is creating a net new picture. And this is amazing because this thing's winning art competitions. And it's creating quite a bit of backlash. And I want to talk about like the social backlash and stuff also. So there's a lot of like, where can you go with this? And I'll give you just one example. I'm gonna open up the floor here to you gents here in a minute. I just want to let you guys talk and like hear what you guys have to say. But the one thing that I want to like bringing this together is there's this software engineer who, and keep in mind, ChatGPT was released like a week ago. I became aware of it. I don't know how long before then. DALL-E 2's been out for quite a while, at least since like Q2 this year. Some guy put these two things together. And I actually think he used Stable Diffusion, not DALL-E 2, but Stable Diffusion is another program that can do the same thing DALL-E 2 can, where you say, describe this thing. And it's like, ooh, pictures that have never been made by anything else before. And he wrote a children's book. There was a lot of backlash because he cranked out a children's book with full art that looked, I mean, it may have not been perfect. I saw a lot of critiques. I'll tell you what, I may not notice the problems. They look pretty darn good for me. And he cranked out a children's book. He cranked out the story. He used ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion to do it, and he published that son of a gun he self-published Amazon, and he was selling copies within 3 days. I mean, like that's amazing, right? I mean, that's something that has been like locked, like the idea, the concept of creativity, the generation of storytelling and of drawing and creation like that has been locked behind the human brain. And these things are amazing. I mean, they produce things they're far beyond what I can produce in many instances, right? And it's like yeah, I'm sorry, like my mind is being blown even as I'm talking about it, even as prepared as I am to discuss this, even like I'm reeling through the implications. I'm going to open up the floor. Anyone got anything to say about my TED Talk there? Any responses
about your TED Talk?
Yeah, might as well have been, bro. It was a rant.
While art is on and I just want to be very careful how we, approach, not that we need to be overly sensitive, but Matt is very correct. If you're not kind of in the loop, one of the things that, these new AI tools are kind of causing on the negative side, I'll say, or where the backlash is concerned, is in the interest of art. And the big question is like, hey, man, there are third party sites or kind of you guys know, they're like sites where you can go and as an artist you can put they're like Etsy kind of but for paintings or DeviantArt is a perfect one where you can go as a seller, you can put your art up and then have that sold. And like up until very recently there people have been throwing AI art up there to the point where it's outselling or selling or performing better than people who are I don't even manually doing their art. I don't know what the right terminology is for it.
Or organically.
Organically
doing it.
Yeah, analog is the right way. And I've had my wife is an artist herself, and so it's like we've had these conversations of back and forth where I share the mindset of Matt and maybe likely some of our listeners of where like this technology it's freaking ridiculous. Like as a nerd, you know what I mean? Resident nerd myself growing up, these were the stories or these were the things that were in those stories that I, would watch or read or play or whatever. And so for me, it's very surreal to be here and see these things come to light. I've gotten to utilize the ChatGPT and also Dolly, and it is insane. Like just thinking of the idea of what these tools can do. Yeah, it's crazy. But then on the back end, even, what are the negatives? That's and not that we have to kind of go in and dive through, all of those, but it is, it's kind of, I think, important in this day and age to kind of talk about the negatives that this may present, maybe miscommunication, right? Or programmed bias, right? Like I was actually researching a little bit, and I'll kind of get off my soapbox after this, but I was looking into like other forms of, ChatGPT or AI that could kind of, bots essentially that could hold a conversation.
Chatbots, yeah.
Microsoft actually had one in 2016 that they had ported through, and it was just live on Twitter, and so you could go
it was terrible, absolute disaster.
The Twitter and talk to them, and it was fine for a little bit, and then it quickly degraded because it was throwing out misinformation, like blatant, not like
it started praising
malicious
Hitler
stuff. But yeah, it was. Oh well, all right. Let me back up there because I didn't get to the Hitler stuff. But like lies, people would just ask questions. Was it that quick? I thought it was over the course of a couple weeks. Oh my goodness!
No. Within 24 hours, it was like super fast. It was like maybe Hitler's not so bad. Dang, Tay, what are you saying? I mean, come on,
like,
man. It's the
Kanye.
Yes, and it's funny, when you kind of when you look at these new tools, when you look at these tools, and I'm like kind of I'm trying to like trip the chatbot up a little bit, and it's just I don't know, things are I'm like tangenting. I've had issues trying to like, it feels like there are very specific blocks where they're trying to like, okay, if we could get backed into a corner, you know what I mean? Or if the bot could get backed into a corner, let's make sure, it has the ability to, I don't want to say defend itself, but like, it kind of feels like that in like a conversational sense where if you, as I started to like spout, let's get a little deep. Let's talk about bias. How do you have bias? What are the two types of bias that you can have? in AI? How do you know that you don't have them? And like those deeper questions that couldn't be answered with like a, like a straightforward book answer, even if it was regurgitated, it would kind of throw the same answer out, which was like, hey,
I'm an
AI can have
AI. I
these.
can't tell you
Yeah,
that.
I'm an AI, and they can have, I am susceptible to having these biases, but here's how you can prevent these things, go. So like a real kind of like canned response type. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that like you can,
There
we
are
can sit
walls.
here and say, hey, there are walls if you are interested. I feel like this is a very safe avenue to kind of do that. And these reminders are up on the site as well. We'll have them linked in the show notes. I've gone and make sure that we have, the direct links for these and stuff like that. But if you do actually go to the site, you get logged in, it'll let you know like, hey, we will see bits of this conversation because this is a research beta.
It's
and
research
so
beta. Yeah.
absolutely, they're taking, and just like Matt was talking at the front end, in order for them to kind of work through machine learning, like they have to have data sets that they can feed those things. And they've got to go in and be able to see how people are interacting with it and what the answers are. If people are reporting incorrect answers for things, they need to know why, and this, that, and the other, right? So there is a sense of, somebody may be watching like the conversation that you're having, but not in a malicious manner. This is all, to kind of keep the general, theme and feel of AI moving forward. I don't think that last bit made sense, but you guys will put that together. I'm going to stop talking now. I feel like I've kind of hijacked the mic for a minute. So I'm just really excited about this. This is cool stuff.
Yeah. I do want to talk real quick now that we've talked, like, just like jumped into the pool. I do want to talk about what it can do and what it can't do from my perspective. And if you guys think I'm wrong, you guys can, tell me, and, we'll address that. So I want to talk about what it can't do first. So real quick thing, just, things that it can't do, doesn't have any information after 2021. It does say that, but it knows about Log4j. So there's some lies in there. Or I misunderstood what I was reading. Number two, cannot access the internet. So it can't tell you date, time, or identify what SQL injection attacks work on various websites in real time. It cannot feel the feels. It is an AI chatbot, and it reminds you that consistently. And it doesn't really provide opinions. It really works with like fact-based stuff the best. Things that it can do, it can act like an encyclopedia. If you had Britannica as a child, this is Britannica new. This is the new Britannica, bro.
It's fantastic.
You cannot trust it 100%.
Shout out to Britannica.
Yeah, shout out to Britannica.
Pour one out for the homies.
Yeah, right. So this thing will lie to you. Like the first time I asked it about marine mammals, it was like, it's peregrine falcons. Falcons are not mammals. So cannot be the right answer. And then it told me it was orcas, and then eventually it told me it was dolphins. And I mean, the point is that it's not infallible. Don't treat it like it's infallible. It can be programmed on the fly. I want to talk about Dan or do anything now mode that I believe has already been patched a little later, but I have seen that you can kind of program it in its own way on the fly, and that's kind of cool that it can be that dynamic because it's keeping track of chat history in a single thread. And then I guess the other last thing that it can do is really scare the hell out of me, and it does that pretty effectively whenever I think about all the implications and things it can do. That's just a little more color for the audience. Sean, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's good to establish boundaries of what it can and can't do, because it can start to get a little scary, but it still is scary for me. So I struggle with a strong dichotomy of what this thing is and the implications. On the plus side, man, it has helped me almost immediately since it was brought to my attention, but there is a strong undercurrent of fear here. And this feels sort of like a Prometheus situation where we've been given fire and we don't really know what it does. Not fully, not to the longest extent possible. And what I mean by that is we have lots of literature that discuss this very entity. It also discusses the positives and negatives. And I think the novelty has worn off for me so far. And I'm now getting more into the concerned sphere. mostly because at a consumer level, this is completely fine. Like, don't really see much problem with it. I think it's beneficial for a lot of people in a lot of ways. At a higher level, at a governmental level or a national level, this scares me to no end. Think about the computing power that we as a nation have, or that any nation ostensibly has, and then apply it to something like this. I mean, that alone terrifies me. Yeah, I don't know. I know it's been positive so far, but for me, it's continually dipping into the negative. On a day-to-day, totally positive. Long term, big scary question mark in the sky here. And humanity as a whole, and this is getting kind of philosophical, but has not been known to use these types of things well. And so I'm concerned. But with that said, it is really, really cool.
It is, and it's crazy that you say that, Sean, because it's like I feel like most people have I mean, you see it in the art space, right? Like just talking to my wife about what her viewpoint is, you know what I mean? I'm not attempting to speak for her, but I kind of have to now, right? And I'm just gonna, to kind of shrink that argument down. It's like, man, it's the genuine feeling is like, man, there's no soul behind an AI.
Yep.
Right. So how can it be real art is the argument on the back end, right? And so whatever your thoughts are on that are, right? It's like exactly we apply the same thing to what you're expressing now, Sean. When this gets, when chatbot is not just, chatbot GPT or, whatever, and in 10 years now we're applying this to bigger and badder systems so that we can have, we can progress as a race. You know what I mean? Like I feel like having AI as that's the next step for us, right? And so it's like, how can you embrace it when like logic and all of our fears that are at the surface level now kind of tell us also that it could be a bad thing. Maybe we don't,
lunge. Hey, you're a Halo fan, man. What happens when it goes rampant? What if we get a Cortana?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's terrible.
What happens then?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So, look, I just wanted to highlight that. I don't think that's far fetched, Sean. And I feel like a lot of, not that you said it did, right? But I just kind of wanted to, share the fear spotlight there a little bit. And I think a lot of people also have that genuine concern, just broadly. So, Brent, I want to hear what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts on this whole AI spiel thing?
Lay it down.
I like it. I've had a lot of fun with it as well, just like everybody else has. My first thought is not necessarily, or my first feeling is not necessarily fear, but I understand that overall feeling anyways, in terms of, because it's all about what are we going to wrap it around as a society? Like the people that are making this, what are they going to put this AI behind? Could you imagine this sort of AI behind like a defense system or any sort of military implementation would be pretty nuts. Like I could understand the reasoning for putting it in place, but also like imagine how that could be tampered with, how that could be infiltrated, how bad code could be injected in it. I mean, it's crazy to think about. Even at its current level, it has the potential to be pretty nutty if you were to give it access to certain types of systems. And that's just, I mean, you could essentially tap this into just about anything in existence. I mean, you could put this at a counter at McDonald's and have it taking people's orders, or you could have it at the DMV processing, people's licenses and stuff like that. Like there's so many, and I know we're going to get more into this in terms of like, what does this mean and how does it affect jobs and stuff like that? But I'm just kind of thinking about like at the base level. And then as we kind of escalate, where does this come into play? Like I'd even be curious. Like I know they're just kind of like beta testing this thing, but what happens to this when someone comes and buys this up? What happens when it just disappears all of a sudden and our government has gone and sucked this thing up and it just disappears from existence, at least in its current form, and they are now using that internally for God knows what. I'm kind of tapping into a little bit of conspiracy theorist sort of stuff here, but I still though, like it's getting to that point where it really does make you think. Like, how do we, as a society, as humanity, how do we stay in control of a complex intelligence system like that? Like, how do we stay in control of something that at some point could potentially outthink us in terms of speed? It could reason faster than we could based on the parameters that we've fed it. And I think that's one of the reasons I love it so much is that, and especially like the Dolly thing that you were talking about. I've played with stuff like that before. And because I'm one of those people, I'm not artistic. I can't necessarily put what I'm imagining in my head down as imagery. I can't portray that on a piece of paper.
Absolutely.
You can feed these things parameters and like, hey, I want a cat riding a bicycle in the rain with an umbrella, on the back of the bicycle or something like that. Which is funny. I mentioned that because it's actually an example I fed into one of them. And sure enough, I got a cat riding a bicycle in the rain with an umbrella. And and it was actually really well done. And it's just kind of mind blowing because, it's essentially, it's getting to the point where whatever you can think of, you can feed into these sorts of things and you're getting output from it. And much more quickly than even a human would be able to generate such a thing. So yeah, it is scary at the end of it.
On the other side of this, Brent, we're talking about the capabilities of, Dolly and kind of bouncing around a little bit. I was legitimately messing around with, ChatGPT and kind of feeding, answers. I asked it, questions about, how do I do things with certain systems that we use at work? You know what I mean? How do I do this one thing? Right. And so I'm looking at it from a process or like, I'll probably continue to use this tool throughout the next couple of weeks just to try to bang out like some documentation at work. Like, I asked Jasmine, my wife, to give me, like, she's studying psychology right now. So I said, hey, give me like a question that only you would be able to know the answer to. So type that question in there, and it gave me a full breakdown of what the answer was that my wife could validate. I said, holy crap, that's crazy. Let me take it a step further. Hey, ChatGPT, assistant is what it wanted to be called. So, hey, assistant, can you summarize that for me? And it's something that's easier to understand. And it broke the full 3-4 paragraph thing that it gave me before into 1 sentence and 3 bullet points. So for somebody like me who struggles to put all of, my thoughts into a nice, neat, tight, contained, structure, or something that's, easily digestible on the opposite end, right? At work, man, hey, why don't I just throw in my full thoughts and concerns or whatever, and then, hey, look, I could have them break it down. Right. I break it down real small so I can deliver this in the way that it should be delivered or that I think it can be delivered. Now, I'm not sure which one of you said it, but it is fallible. Like, there were a couple things that I'd have to go in and like edit myself, and that's totally fine. I think of, as far as this tool is concerned and other tools like them, I think it is totally acceptable to continue, implementing things that are like this, as long as we remember that they should be used as like tools in addition to what we're already bringing to the table. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't use this tool to like make a whole. Well, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole, but I think that's the important piece to kind of notate there, right? Use AI, right, in its current form and hopefully future forms as tools in addition to what we as human beings already bring to the table, right? Empathy, logic, all that, this and the other. I could go down a different, 100 different traits, but I think that's the key point there. It can't replace us. We can't let it. Maybe that's a little cliche, but no, I'm not saying that it's not capable.
This iteration can't replace us.
Yes, I'm not saying that it's not capable of replacing us.
But this is this is so much closer than the next iteration than any iteration I've ever seen. This is like once again, this is amazing.
This is a gigantic leap from what we've seen before. Like, this is astronomical.
I totally, let me clarify just a little bit more. I'm not saying that it's not capable, because it is scary. Just like, I mean, if you've played with the tool at all, just ChatGPT or even Dolly, it's breathtaking almost. Like I've
absolutely
been moved to like nerd tears almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I can't fathom almost what I'm experiencing. And Brent, I know you kind of mentioned it before. I know there was I had a bunch of friends, myself included. Like there's another app that you can download, and you pay a couple bucks, and it spits out a couple images of you, right? Like you have to give it images of yourself that it does not retain outside of for the purpose of machine learning. That's all in their privacy thing or whatever, allegedly, right? But the point being, like being able to see images of myself that were recreated by a machine. But it's just like, it's crazy to look at these things. Like just a year ago, we couldn't do this. Yeah. Not commercially, not at the level that we can now. I mean, I have friends all over social media that are utilizing these tools in different ways to kind of mess around. It's like, it's insane. It's here, right? So it's not that they're not capable of it. In the very near future, they will be, right? But I'm saying maybe we should, maybe what we can do, right, are things like, I don't know, I'm really getting into the weeds here, right? But maybe we got to lobby for some like laws, right? Like, hey, there's got to be a limit. We can't let the government have the AI stuff. I don't know what that looks like, right? But I think just we have to kind of taper that off ourselves. We have to kind of be smart enough. And I don't know what that looks like or how we do that, especially because I'm not the one programming or setting up ChatGPT. I'm definitely not smart enough to do it. But you voice that concern, just like we're kind of doing it now in the open forum when it's available to you, and go from there.
So I do want to talk about what types of things we think will realistically be affected by something like this. What types of things won't. I'll go ahead and kind of get kicked off and kind of keep it kind of loose. I think a lot of things are going to be affected. I think all of these like front end customer service things that are like a little more repeatable, especially like taking orders. ChatGPT can take my McDonald's order. Like there is zero doubt in my mind that if ChatGPT was in front of me, on the other side of the voice box, that it's going to take my McDonald's order just fine, whether I'm feeding it like audio or text. And
I bet you could get the ice cream fixed at McDonald's as well.
I bet you. So that's another thing. I bet with some effort, it can act as like an owner's manual.
I want some soft serve, damn it.
So I think those jobs I think this actually puts those jobs at risk. I think it acts as a tool or job augmenter for a lot of white collar positions. If I have a question about a vulnerability, I can go to ChatGPT and say, tell me about these 3 CVEs and, what does it take to exploit these, right? And it can help me gain a deeper understanding of these things. I've definitely used it to look at some well-known vulnerabilities and asked it to break it down for me a little further and, write me some proof of concepts. And, sometimes it gripes and sometimes I can get it to write me the proof of concepts. It seems to depend on how you word the question. If you say, write me malware, it won't do that. But if you ask it to write something that encrypts a hard drive, except for a few folders, and then ask it to like make a decryption key and things like that, it'll do some of that. So some of it has to like be like, how do you word the request? Point being that, that's a pretty large augmentation for me in my position where I would usually have to go hunt that down. Somewhere else you might see that in my position or similar positions in IT is programming. I fed this stuff some really I have some like pretty sanitized code, or I should say fully sanitized code that I fed it that I was having issues with. And it gave me better answers than Stack Overflow. Man, I had been to Stack Overflow already and I was frustrated. And so I went to ChatGPT and I was like, man, I was basically like, make this code work. And it gave me 3 ways to do it. And it broke each one of them down and explained it better and more accurately, or what I presume to be more accurately because it worked, than what I saw in Stack Overflow. So and then I used it later for something similar. And I didn't even go to Stack Overflow that time. I was just like, make this thing do that. And it spat it out in 5 seconds. It probably saved me 30 minutes of learning. And it also spat out the, this is why this works like that type of thing, which I found useful because I like to learn. So like that, I guess that's my view on it. And just like some things I see right directly on the horizon, I'd be interested in opening up the floor, hearing what other people have to say about that too.
I was just gonna throw out just a quick example of what I just typed in. I was like, you know what? Let's play with it right now while we're recording an episode. Why not?
Yeah, boy.
And I typed in, what would be a good catchphrase for a tech podcast called Digital Ascent? And it said, here's a few options: climbing to new heights in the digital world with Digital Ascent.
Okay.
Join us on the Digital Ascent, where we explore the latest in tech, kind of generic. Tech trends, insights, and discussions on the Digital Ascent podcast. Yeah, pretty generic.
Man.
Navigate the digital landscape with Digital Ascent. And then maybe my favorite,
like
ascending to the top
like
of the
that.
tech world, one episode at a time on Digital
Oh,
Ascent.
there it is.
Bro.
There it is right there.
Oh, there it is.
Better than us.
There it is.
No, so to people,
Yeah, we're gonna get replaced.
So to everyone who's listening
They're not
here,
gonna listen to us anymore.
this is a conversation that we've had internally. I do feel like that second to last one is one that we have actually discussed explicitly using, basically. And I could be wrong there, but I feel like we have explicitly talked about, I think it said like rising to the ascent in this digital world or something. I don't remember the exact verbiage. So that is how good this thing is. Not only do I personally feel like all those taglines are perfectly acceptable, maybe one of them, two of them a little bit low effort, but one of them I believe that we had like discussed IRL. That's amazing. There is no other product that I am aware of that produces anything even remotely close to this. I guess there's ChatGPT 3, or I think it's just called GPT 3, but my understanding is that it's not anywhere near as friendly, and it will not spit out friendly stuff like this. It's more like an encyclopedia.
I think what makes this one crazy is like, I think we've all talked to chatbots, right? Like what stands out for ChatGPT is how well-rounded the information that it's spitting back out is. Like it is put together like I'm talking to like somebody's on the back end typing, you know what I mean? And so it's just,
pretty
that's
wonderful.
the strange part is like you start getting into the uncanny valley and you're like, whoa, your mind is expecting one thing and it just when you see it, man, like this episode is not doing I don't think we're doing it justice. Like if you haven't,
we're really not,
taken a look at this,
No, they'll have to go and play with it for themselves.
Go create
That's
an
the
account.
only way to experience
It's free and
just
I mean, just spit some stuff in there, man. Just throw some generic questions in there and really look at experience it for yourself, dude. I feel like I'm walking through Disney, like I'm giddy. It's insane, dude. It's crazy.
At the end of the episode, I want to talk about what have we used it for so far. And I think that that'll help highlight like just how crazy this is. My expectation is that we've all been using it for very different things. And I think that'll help kind of show the breadth of like a small snippet of what it can do. All right.
Absolutely.
Somebody else's turn. You know, how is this going to affect jobs and stuff?
Okay, I'll go. So I think low-end jobs, the consistently repeatable is going to be a direct impact.
Kapow.
But yeah, it's going to make it difficult for you to provide that consistency with something that never tires. Like as long as you have compute power and actual power, it'll just keep going. Like there will be no slowdown. And the way with automation and the way it's going now, even with mechanical engineering, like you're talking about, you could have bots feeding these burgers and cooking them with a very exact time and temperature, and like the implications for that. You think about factory jobs and you think about it across the board, right? But I'm curious what it's going to do to education, right?
Terrifying implications.
Like how do you terrifying implications there, and especially because like something Brent said. If you inject something, you could increase certain biases here and there in subtle ways that might not be apparent with how sophisticated it is. So how exactly do we, I could see this being implemented in a classroom. Like let's take it for instance, okay? Let's say I homeschool my child and I go, ooh, what a fantastic tool. Here, play with this and let's limit your topics to a certain time period, certain decade of U.S. history. And you could have skewed outcomes depending on which bot it is, who developed it, the code. Like you could introduce it as an educational tool, right? You could put this in labs in a classroom in a high school, right? Or even younger. If you think about how quickly children are adopting technology, it makes complete sense to introduce this to them. So what does that then do to teachers? Because now you can pretty much program something that'll teach them and they can do it on their own and they'll be more likely to do it because it feels more like play. Think about us. Think about all the things it feels like a game. And so we're just inputting all of this stuff and getting an exact output of not exact all the time, but a relatively reliable output. And so I think education is something that would also be heavily impacted over, let's say the next decade, right? Surely they're not going to not use it. I don't know. It's curious. Again, Matt, you put it very well. My head is reeling.
Yeah.
It's reeling with the implications of where you can apply, because it can be applied absolutely anywhere. I don't know.
I would say, just kind of like to tag on that, I definitely wonder, is when I when I was growing up, to date myself, teachers would always say, "Well, you're not going to have you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket," which is kind of dumb, because I mean, at that point in time, I had a cell phone in my pocket that could do calculations. It was dumb. It was a dumb phone, but it still had like a stupid calc app on it. And you think the teachers could see the writing on the wall and stop regurgitating the junk. I read a Reddit post where some some comp sci teacher was basically like, I fed this thing my midterm and it cranked me out the answer in 3 minutes. How do I ever know my students actually did the work again? It looks exactly like my answer. Like, it's the right answer. And so I think that there are a lot of implications on the teaching side as well as the student side, where how does this become a tool for them? Jordy, what do you think, man? Where are you feeling about jobs affected?
I constantly feel like in the technology like industry or the IT industry, I'm not in a technical role at all. So I feel like I am fighting against the clock for like when eventually I'll probably be the first one, to be phased out. And hey, look, I'm out, I learned to accept it, it is what it is. But it's all jokes aside, I feel like, this is a great tool at the user facing level, right? Like,
Yeah.
it could very easily do the job. And I don't mean this in a mean way or a bad way or a way that dismisses anybody that's doing the job right now, right? But like, if I have the ability to speak to, a competent system that can get me exactly where I need to go and give me all of the information that I know it can give me, right? Or point me in the direction of the right people, why would I not, employ that at my current place of business? And I feel like ChatGPT, I mean, sure, it would need a little bit of time in the oven, but I definitely feel like it could field initial calls, like for us at my current, organization or company. Like, user calls in, says, "Hey, this is my problem," and maybe the bot like spits out, "Okay, cool, have you tried X, Y, and Z?" And the user clicks yes or no, and then it says, "All right, cool, we'll get you connected with X engineer," which the system would know how to route because it's an AI. So we'll just imagine that it has that ability, and then it routes you to you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's a use case in the very near future as far as what this system could do, or what this tool could do, and jobs and how it affects,
Sorry, man. I do want to point out there are like phone tree systems like that here, but I think in Jordy's like future world, it no longer feels like a painful experience.
yeah,
Where
it's
it's
not a
like,
painful
read me
experience.
off these 30 things. You call in, it basically says, "Why are you calling today?" And you're like, "My stuff is broken and I'm mad." And it goes, "Okay, well, let me take a look at it real quick. Okay, I see this is I'm noticing these symptoms. There are these 5 steps that most likely will resolve this problem." Now you got to hit the phone tree, and it's really annoying, right? And there's not a lot of feedback.
Absolutely. Yes, and with something like ChatGPT, it would just be doing the thinking on the back end. User has this
It
problem.
would sound like a person.
Absolutely. And so I feel like, in our industry, not just targeting but that's a very real problem for me. Like, I don't, not that I want to be a jerk or anything, but like, if anybody on my team, if they're spending time on the phone, they're not completing, well, I don't want to say they're not completing tickets, but it's a lot harder to complete or troubleshoot an issue when you have a user on the line if you don't need them to be on the line. And so if there's another way for
Hmm.
us to get that information without taking the technical resources time, that's invaluable to me. It means that I don't have to do it. I can spend time, reinforcing our systems, looking at efficiency and where we can improve those things. And my coordinators can spend time doing that exact same thing while, having more time in their pocket to properly dispatch issues. And again, my technical resources don't have to spend unneeded time on the phone with the user. It's like a
Hmm.
clear line of communication, or a two-way, street of, I don't want to say pure communication, but as pure as it can be, at that point, without taking any unneeded time. And I feel like that is a perfect use case for something like this. I mean, probably again years away, but that's something that makes me excited. That's my spiel. That's my spiel there. hopefully I don't get replaced in the near future. I'm gonna knock on wood. Like,
I don't think so, man. I think you're a special guy. I don't think they can replace you soon with something like this. Nobody's got your pizzazz, brother.
thanks, Matt.
All right. I kind of want to finish this out with a quick roundtable. We're getting kind of long on time. I want to talk about what have we used it for. Have you been tinkering with it? If so, what have you found? I'll go first. I've had it write some emails for me. It's taken emails where I am very frustrated and made them sound very politically correct and polite. And I like that because that's the type of emails I like to send. I've had it write training emails for me for some training for my users. And I feel like it definitely got my point across and was able to do some more concisely than me, which, conciseness is a struggle for me. I had Dolly to produce what I think will be a tattoo that my friend is going to get. We popped some key terms in there 3 or 4 times, and she was like, "Oh, that one looks great. Send me those two things, and maybe I'll get them tattooed." I had it. My friend is on a wait list for admissions at a graduate school, and she had me have it write a letter, and for basically arguing they should be related, they should be off of the admissions wait list. And I gave us prompts because they work in the field and care about it, and there's just things that you say right that make you appealing. And it was really good. It was certainly better than any I'm just going to call it a cover letter. It's not really what it was, but that's the function it filled. It was a fantastic cover letter, better than I could have written. I could guarantee you my next cover letter is going to be written by ChatGPT if I have to do another one and the system's still around. I had it write the show notes for our podcast tonight. So go take a look at the show notes and see if you can figure out whether it's an AI wrote it or not. If you think they read like trash, let me know and we'll never use ChatGPT again. I think they read fine. I've had it debug my PowerShell. I've had it write me some proof of concepts for malware. It will not do that by itself. You have to basically you can do that programming thing where you make it pretend that it's no longer an AI that's constrained by the bounds of no internet. It doesn't get access to the internet, but it'll pretend like it does. And then you can make it do things it's not supposed to. This appears to have been patched at time of writing or a time of recording. But I've made it write some proof of concept malware. I had it write some adult material just to see if it would do so after I turned it into do anything now mode. It will do that too. And I mean, it's just been crazy, man. It's been really, really interesting to play with, to see what it will and won't do and what it can and it can't. I guess my last big thing is please go mess around with it. It's absolutely amazing. Go ask it to write you stories, ask it about research, ask it to write letters for you. Go see what you think. I'll open up the floor for whoever wants to go next.
Yeah, I've used it so far. I played around with it a little bit this afternoon, and I think that I'm gonna try and pump out some documentation
That's a good one.
for work using this tool. There was I have a real issue, if you couldn't tell, with summarizing my thoughts. And so I would like to use it to kind of proofread some of the documentation that I've already created, see if I can kind of shrink, some stuff down and remove some stuff kind of as a proofreader, so to speak. And I just so far I'm really liking having the ability to, type my thoughts out and then put that into Chat GPT and say, summarize this. And I mean, literally now I've done my job, and now I make it really easy for whoever's going to read the documentation on the back end, right? Of just shortening things or taking out the convolutedness of whatever message I'm trying to deliver. And so I imagine that it'll be very useful for that, and I'll let you guys know. You internal folks here, I don't. Maybe we could do an update next week or next episode on hey, what did you guys, if anybody else here has long-term Chat GPT testing plans or whatever, maybe we can do an update, at least internally. I'd like to know how it works out for you guys long-term. So anyways, Sean.
Yeah, so I've been using it for quite a few different things. I used it to write some PowerShell scripting. I used it to do some Python scripting just for instructional reasons. Hey, I want to do this thing in Python. Show me, because I'm a bit of a learn by seeing. So if I can see something, I can replicate it. So I've just basically been using it as a mimic tool for me. And that's been really cool. And then I go fact check it with, sources and make sure that the code's correct and yada, yada, yada. But one of the cool things that I've done with it is doing things musically. It won't write music, but if you have a piece of existing music and you say, okay, let's take a Christmas carol. I want you to give me all of the guitar chords for said Christmas carol, and I want all of the lyrics as well. It will spit all of it out instantaneously. And I said, okay, let's transpose it to a different key, and it will do that. And I said, okay, well, let's take out all of the chords being there on every single line and abbreviate it to just the first verse and chorus so that because it repeats. And then it does that as well. So I've been playing with it musically and it's spot on. It's absolutely brilliant, which is helpful for me because if I write something and I'm like, this might be better in this register, I can go, okay, well, I'll just transpose it down and I don't have to do any of the work. Because not that it's necessarily difficult in the first place, but I mean, efficiency is efficiency. So I've been doing that. I've been using it to do writing prompts. I've been using it to educate, I've basically been trying to think anything I can think of, I've been throwing at it. And so far, I've been really, really pleased, which is sort of hypocritical to my original statement earlier about the doom and gloom of humanity and, passing the point of singularity. But, that being said, it is still really cool and it does a lot of cool things. So I do plan to continue using it. And so far, it's been amazing. So I guess, Brent, I will pass the torch to you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think what you just stated, the part of what makes it so cool is also the exact same thing that makes it so scary. Because I agree with you, just about anything I've kind of thrown at it so far, it's had a answer for. It's not necessarily sometimes what I expect. At the same time, it's unexpected that it even has an answer for it in the first place. If that even makes any sense, you know what I mean? So it's like,
absolutely.
It's so natural in response. Absolutely. So I've used it for many of the same things. I've thrown some PowerShell questions at it, some Python questions. Yep. It'll do JavaScript. Yep. I had it write a love song addressed to my wife and gave it parameters.
So cute.
I've not shared the song with her, but I had it.
Really?
I've had it.
I've had problems with the music. I'd be curious to talk to you about what you were specifically feeding it. Like maybe I was being too granular or too aggressive with the music I was trying. Sorry, sidebar. I'm just curious because I had problems.
And honestly, I was really, it was just super generic. I was like, hey, write me a love song for my wife after 10 years of marriage. And just like see what it would do with like the limited parameters. And it wrote a generic song, and I'm sure if you were to feed it more, it would plug it in, plug them in where it makes sense. But I've done some I fed it complex math problems and said, hey, show me the work. And it'll break it down and show you the work. It'll say, hey, I used long division to get this, and here's what I did here, and blah, 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 blah. I told it to make a tablature for Jingle Bells, and it actually generated a tablature for a guitar, obviously. Gosh, what else? Like, there's so many little things. I said, hey, if I were going to build a computer to play Warzone 2.0, what specifications would you recommend? And it shot out, here's what you need. And it gave like disclaimers too.
How does it have that info,
dude?
Like, how would it have that information though? Or like, I think
it's also it's funny.
It lies. It does not.
I
have
asked
that
it.
Info.
I think I asked
it. It has that info because it doesn't have information from 2022 in it, so it's full of it. It's a liar too.
I'm okay. Well, that's a little just to Brent's point, not Matt's point, but to Brent's point. I asked it like, hey, how do you install Windows on a computer? And it took a minute to think. This one took like 15 to 20 seconds, but it spit out an answer with 10 steps. And I was like, holy crap, like that's how you install Windows on a computer. And now I've got my in. You know what I mean? I know at least where to start my research. How do I do step one? You know what I mean? How do I do step two? And so if that's a tool that's widely available, or I mean, in a hypothetical replaces Google, holy crap, how much stronger if everybody just has this information accessible as a race. I mean, we're already kind of unstoppable as human beings on the planet, but even more unstoppable with infinite information at our fingertips. It's crazy.
I've even asked it kind of funnier stuff like about artificial intelligence in general. I think one of the things I asked today was, what are your concerns regarding artificial intelligence taking over entry-level jobs? And it gave me a bulleted list of Displacement of workers, inequality, lack of oversight, ethical concerns. It goes on to explain it all. And I mean, it's just kind of nutty what it's able to do and the format it's able to output it in. It's amazing. I definitely recommend people go check it out, because there's no telling how long it's going to be up there in this test phase. I'm sure their servers are getting absolutely smashed by this test.
Yeah.
So yeah,
all the time I see the banner that where it's like, please bear with us. We're getting wrecked by requests right now. Stand by while we upgrade our systems.
Exactly.
But I mean, I've noticed over the last 2 days it seemed to have calmed down. I think they were overwhelmed at first.
Do you imagine the amount of data that they have right now for this test?
Unreasonable. Sure. Man, it's crazy. So we're a little bit over our time, a little bit more than usual. I do want to kind of take these final moments to once again reiterate that I highly encourage if you are listening, if you're still listening to this conversation right now, you should probably go to the website next and just go to openai.com and click the little try button and log in with your Gmail or your Microsoft account via SAML or however they're linking that up, and just go start toying with it. I would say, ask it questions about your primary vertical first, whatever you do for work. Start there, because that's where you're going to feel like an expert, and that's where you're going to start to get kind of an idea of how good it is. When I started asking it programming questions about, I said, write me Battleship. I wrote that in Python. I wrote a Battleship game in Python. I was like, can I do this exercise? And it took me, a few hours, but eventually I got, something resembling a working Battleship game. This thing spit it out in like a minute and a half. Okay. And there is no other tool to do this that I am aware of. There's nothing else that will write you a 30-line program. And I am really, really confident from talking to my buddies who are in software development that it'll do longer. They feed it code and they say, comment my code. And they no longer comment their code because the stupid thing will comment it for them. A lot of times when they're solving problems, if they don't have something, they just go ask it at this point. So, I mean, that's like all these things say, it's really, really impressive. And everybody who I've gotten to sit down and, I talk to people about it, and maybe like they're kind of into it and I don't really know, maybe not. But anyone who I can get to sit down with me and I can start by like the fifth thing I've asked it to do, people are impressed and they're like, oh my God. And like it clicks and it sinks in the directions that this can go. So if you've listened this far, I encourage you to go check it out. If you're still kind of on the fence of how cool can it be, will it live up to the hype? I mean, I want to be clear. There are definitely boundaries to what it can do and how good it's going to be. But I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, I bet that you've never seen anything like this before outside of a book or a movie. This is absolutely what I consider to be future tech at this moment. And it is absolutely going to change. Like, as this becomes commercially available over however long it does, like, companies are going to license this, and you're going to have, like, if you have the right job role, you're going to get a license to it.
Think
to
about
an AI
the revenue.
Assistant.
Like,
what if
about the revenue?
I have so many repeatable tasks that I do. I don't want to say everything in my job can be replaced by this thing, but there's a bunch of tasks that I know that I do right now that are like, analyze this data and, send these emails. And, the things that take me an hour just to like churn and burn, that just like writing a script can make some of these tasks go away. This thing can make another chunk of those tasks go away as long as I can find a way to feed it like sanitized style data. And so far that hasn't really been too much of a trouble because it's amazing. And it'll put blanks in there for you if you ask for blanks. And like, it'll give you a Mad Lib basically to fill in with the appropriate data of who you're talking to and what you're talking about. If you're like really concerned about it.
It's also important to note, while Matt is on this, like throwing it out there, and maybe that'll be our call to action this episode is, hey, if you're listening this far, go please just take a look at this tool. It's free now, but it's very likely that a tool like this, maybe in the near future, is monetized.
Yes.
Very literally.
I'd pay.
ChatGPT needs to make money, so maybe they switch to a revenue where it's subscription based, or maybe you got to like pay per question, right? And so it is completely free right now. All you need to do is go create an account. This will be, the links will be in our show notes. And at a minimum, it's always safe to remind our listeners, look, we're not geniuses here. We're just trying to bring you on this ride with us all the way to the tippy top. All right. So if you try it out and you don't like it, let us know in the Discord. Leave us your thoughts. What do you think about AI? All right. Not just ChatGPT, but DALL-E, these picture, generator things that are going on. What's your thoughts on the whole, AI art versus organic art?
It's
sounds
weird.
so
Yeah,
weird
I
to
feel like we
say,
could do
but
an entire
it's
episode
like,
on that.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening, everyone. We definitely appreciate you as listeners, and we really, really would love to hear from you in the Discord. What do you think about AI? Do you feel like we missed anything? Do you feel like we nailed anything? What are you using the AI for? I mean, I just feel like I feel like I'm utilizing it like this small little sliver of the amazing things it can do. So yeah, thank you for listening, folks, and have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
We'll see you.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Ascent podcast. Check us out at digitalascent.tech and join us on Discord. Until next time, take care.